I know that you're quite busy in this industry to support all of us, but we do believe that this is a very important topic, because our industry is a limited resource industry, as you very well say, and we have some hiring challenges because of that. For those of you who don't know Olga is the founder and CEO of Live Assets, and she has over 20 years in IT staffing, and she has a sociology major. She sits on various boards. She's a speaker and a lifelong learner. She's an entrepreneur and member of the EO Worldwide. And she has recently, well, not so recently, over 3 years ago, you started working with the transit rail industry. Is that right?
It is, absolutely. Yes, yes. We launched organically, and by fluke. It's kind of funny how it happened, but yes, yes. And it's been a great journey.
So tell me a little bit. What I do know about Live Assets is that you are a boutique staffing firm, right? So what do you mean by boutique staffing firm? What is it that's different or unique about what you do, and why?
You know, as you said, I've been in the industry, and now I'm dating myself, but over 20 years. So a long, long time. I come from sociology, and I have a passion about people and their careers. So that's how this all started. And when I decided to launch Live Assets, it was because I wanted a boutique shop. What does it mean to me? It's like, you know, you think about, you go to a boutique and you buy clothes, and you think, you know, you want that personal touch. You want that niche experience. You want attention to detail. And that's what we do. We work very, very closely with our partners, you know, with people that engage us. Our approach is very, very different. Now, mind you, after the pandemic, things have changed a bit. So we do a lot more of this, but we used to literally walk through every client's office, a manufacturing plant, whatever it was, to really get a feel and a sense of the people that we're working with. So I think that's where the boutique comes in, and we still do it in a very unique way. Oh, I think you're muted and I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Thank you. What I was saying is that it really seems like a unique approach. Traditionally, one thinks that for staffing, you go to your HR department and they do that for you. How do you think that this approach of boutique staffing will benefit the transit rail industry specifically?
Wow. Well, if we think about it, so HR, under the HR umbrella, recruiting falls in there somewhere, right? Because HR is quite broad. And the recruiting side of the business is very, very different. And especially when you're talking about an industry such as transit and rail, that's where you really, really need to be focused and really know what it is that you're working on. And this is where we come in. So, and that's why a lot of times when we are hired to work with a company, it's because they're not able to find what they're looking for. And it's a very niche market. Think about, like we talked, and you mentioned it before, it's an upcoming market. It's a market that Canada doesn't have this talent. And for a recruiting agent, for a department in an organization, they don't necessarily have the understanding of what it entails to hire these type of people. If you think of our department, we launched a department probably about, like you said, 3 years ago, where we have hired engineers, people with engineering degrees that understand this industry quite well. And they are the ones who do searches. They're the ones who deal with a lot of the system and the technical aspects of this role, of these roles. Now, most of the companies don't have that internally. And I think that is where we can make a difference. We understand our approach to this and what we have found, and I can go into a little bit further. I think I should just kind of mention the approach that we have, because I think it's important. So when we started working in this industry, we had a gentleman that I worked with probably about 10, 12 years ago who, knocked on my door one day and said, "Hey, I need your help." And he at the time was a director at Crosslinx, and they needed to hire, 70, 80 people in a very short period of time. And, I said, "Well, I don't know. We've never worked in the industry, but I'll definitely give it a try." And when we started working with them, we realized the complexity of the roles. And this is where it all began, is really understanding, because we come from technology, because we come from engineering, our teams, they understood what the word transferable skills are. And this is really important. And I think this is where we excelled and we did really, really well. If you think within a span of a year, we hired over 70 people. And not only in Crosslinx, but out of those 70 people, 55 or 58, we were doing a count, were people that we transferred from other industries into this industry, which is awesome. Like, if everyone can do that, this is how we're going to grow this. And how that's done, though, not just, and this is where, if you don't have the technical background, if you don't have an engineering background, you cannot understand what transferable skills means, right? When we recruit, we don't recruit with a title, because titles, everyone uses different titles. We look at the core, we look at the job, we want to understand. We work with the hiring managers one-on-one. Yes, we'll get a requisition from HR, but we're not going to work on a piece of paper. So we want to work with the hiring manager. We want to understand what this person is going to do in a course of a day. It's one thing, we want to know, okay, this is what this person needs to have, but tell me what they're going to do in a course of a day. I need to understand this. So when we are finding people from other areas, we can bring them in, and they can do the work, and they can make that transfer. So this is where, the niche and the combination of coming to us and working with us is different from having just a recruiting division within your organization. And again, you have to also remember, we're frontline. We speak with people every day, right? We know the projects that are going on. We know, what the hiring needs are. We know what people are asking for, what they're looking for, where we're going to go and find these people. We've built a huge network. So this is something that an HR department or a recruiting department within the HR team will not be able to do, because they're not frontline. They work within their silo, and that is limiting.
Correct.
I don't know if I answered your question or if I went too far, but I wanted to kind of give you an overview.
That's perfectly. You talked about how the market, the talent pool is small, or you don't have the talent here in Canada. Can you expand a little bit of that, about this talent pool that you're trying to fish out of?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I can. And we all know, employment is a big issue in Canada. And yesterday I was with the chief economist of BDC of the government of Canada, and we had a conversation. And other than the rates, and talking about the rates going up and down and what we're going to be doing in the future, one of the big concerns of the government is employment as a whole. So in this market, of course, because it's not a long-lived market in Canada to say that we've got, this talent pool, there's a number of things that I think that that we should do, or at least that we are looking to do. One of them definitely is what I talked about earlier, is about transferable skills, and they're there. You just have to understand the common denominator of the roles. That's where it starts. So you have to really understand the core, and then you can make that transfer. And that is a big, big plus. If we can all do it, we will be able to really excel in this market. So that's one thing. The other thing is training within. Like, the companies need to be doing that. We started with Crosslinx, right? And 3 years ago, we hired people, we transferred them in. They started off, let's say, a coordinator. And today, so once that project was done, we worked along with Crosslinx, and we took a lot of these people and we placed them into TTC. Today they're working in TTC, they're in Metrolinx, they're in other affiliated companies, and they've moved up the ladder within those 2 and 3 years. So they're on their way, right? So training within is a big part of this. Another thing that's important, and I hope and I believe that a lot of the companies will probably have looked at hiring abroad. There is a talent pool, a huge talent pool. We're looking at bringing systems from Europe. There is a talent pool there. Like, we had brought someone, I remember, in signaling, a very, very senior person that came actually from France. And we brought him into one of the corporations that really needed someone, and we couldn't find the talent here. Also the Middle East, there's a number of projects going on there. So if we have the capacity, and through the LMIAs and the government, like I said, one of the conversations we were having yesterday is that they're making it a lot easier for people in trade, for people with these niche markets, to be able to bring people abroad, to bring people into Canada from abroad. The only thing is that you want to be proactive. You want to have enough LMIAs, and that's something where I guess immigration lawyers, and we work with them also, where they would set up companies that would have LMIAs at hand so that they can bring in people when they need. And that's when you bring in very high level people who've been doing this for a year, because you'll need that combination, right? And the other thing that I think is really important, and it's a thought that, advocating in universities and in colleges to encourage maybe bringing in courses in the engineering department that will help with this too. Because, this is something that's going to be, we're looking at projects that, 25, 30 years. So it's worth the investment.
It's interesting that you mentioned universities. Everyone in the transit rail industry understands that in Canada, we don't have a set path for someone to, go to university, get your degree, get in a job, because there's no such thing at the moment that is ready like that, which I don't want to spoil things, but this will only be for a short period of time, because we know of people working on this. But other than the university path, and what do you think about, when you say training within, what do you think about those people who say, well, I can bring in someone on board to my company, I'm a contractor, I bring in a staff and I train them, and then they leave me with all the knowledge and time I invested in them. Do you think that that is a deterrent for training within?
You know what? It's always an issue. We see it, and I'm going to take my experience from information technology, which has been, imagine now, over 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. And again, it's also a niche market, so they run parallel. And what's really important when we interview, and we do this, and honestly, we have very little turnover, and I think one of the reasons is because we listen. We have to start listening to what is important to our employees. We have to take the time. And this is where HR should be heavily involved along with management. If you want to keep employees, you have to listen to what it is that they really are looking for. And if you can give them what it is that they want, there's been times when we've interviewed people and they're amazing for the role. Like they've got everything, they check off everything. But then you realize that the company that we're working with can't offer them what they want. And what they want could be a flexible schedule. It could be growth. And we know this is a smaller company and they're not going to get the growth that they want. It could be location, and there's people that will try in recruiting just to make that, to close that job. And they'll say, well, you can work around it. They can do this. It's not going to work. It has to be a win-win situation. So when you are training up someone, you've got to build a career path. And that is where our part in sociology and a lot of behavioral interviewing that we do is really, really important. Understanding and building people's career paths.
Feels, sorry for interrupting you. It feels like you're talking about also a culture around the hiring that we need to start shifting our mentality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, so if we, as I said, if we take the biggest project that we worked on Crosslinx, and think about transferring now 55 people into a new industry, how did we do it? Other than, understanding the technologies and the core that they would bring and so on and so forth. The other big part, we were huge advocates of this industry. We explained to people that, this is an up and coming industry. If you want to have a long-term career, here's the path. This is where you can go. These are the opportunities. And not only the fact that we don't have enough people in the industry, but, you'll be given a chance to be trained, right? To learn a new industry and to grow in it. And you can take various avenues. So it's our job, all of our jobs, whether it's internal recruiters, whether it's, working with an agency like ourselves, to advocate for this industry. And to welcome and to open doors and to allow people to really understand and to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's not just about here, get another job, right? It's about building their career. And I really, truly believe that more than ever, that, candidates today are seeking for places to grow, places where they feel they're embraced, at places where they feel part of something bigger than themselves. And they're not just a number. So I think that we have to, and when I say we again, like I'm speaking from not only the agency side, but the companies, this industry, embrace this and allow these people to grow. And I think that they will, be dedicated to corporations that see it this way.
That's a really good point that you make. It's building that trust and that loyalty, right?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And we can in this industry because there are jobs, right? Because sometimes you want to build that, but you can't because the industry doesn't allow for it, right? Whereas here you can.
And when we talk about training and training within, do you think that there is a path for contractors to potentially come together and train the industry, or partner with universities to train the industry in a different way? Do you think that that would render results promptly? Do you have any thoughts on that?
You know what? I don't think there's one way to train. I think there's a number of ways to train people. I know from myself, it's kind of funny because when I usually hire people, I throw them in the fire, you know, and I just watch, and what I'm looking for is really to see where they excel. That's what I'm looking for. Where are their strengths? And, you know, after a month or two, when I've realized where someone's strengths are, then I can help them build that strength. Right? So there's not one way to train. There's, yes, I believe there could be courses out there. I think that we need leaders in organizations. We should, as leaders, try to lead by example, right? And encourage these people to learn. So, and what we talked about earlier, I think that, yes, universities, colleges should have courses. And when there's companies that are really investing in these industries, they can afford to build their own internal training. It'll take time, but you start somewhere and it starts slowly, right? And it's a gradual progression.
And do you have any specific thoughts about the highly skilled technical abilities? Do you think that it applies to all positions in the industry? What are your thoughts on that?
You know what? I think we as human beings are always learning. And I think when we stop learning, there's a whole bunch of issues that come up. So I think I'm a lifelong learner, you know, a lifelong learner. I don't think I'll ever stop. And I think, yes, even, you know, for very skilled people, there's always a learning curve. There's always something. And as long as that, I think that is a dangling carrot for people. So, and you know what? Even when you come to a point where you've reached quite a senior level, just giving back and training, you are learning from a lot of these young people. Like when we bring people into our industry that are young, trust me, I'm always learning from them and I'm always open to it. So I don't think it ever stops, really.
That's awesome. Yeah. And particularly with this industry depending more and more on technological advances, correct? So all this innovation that we have to keep up with the times.
Yep.
So when you talk about the role of the agency, you've talked about how you have to work hand in hand with the hiring managers and understanding the role. Do you have any concerns about this whole process and the role of an agency?
I do. I do big time. So you know what? No company really comes to us for easy roles. And when they come to us for easy roles, it's usually because they need to fill 10 of them. And I'll give you an example, a really interesting example. So when we started with Crosslinx, the job that they gave us, so the title was Data Manipulation Specialist. And in brackets, it said QFM. Go figure, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Really. And if you give this to your recruiter in-house and they'll post it or they'll do a search, they're not going to really find anything.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to take that and break it down. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. But what I am going to say now, working with an agency, if you decide that you want to engage an agency, then work with them. Utilize their experience. Don't throw them a piece of paper. Don't waste your money. Honestly, don't throw them a piece of paper and wait for miracles to happen. Work with them. Engage them as your partner. Spend the time. It'll be worth it. Like we never work. If someone throws me a piece of paper and says, here's a job, can you find me someone? Chances are I'll say, you know what? We're not the agency for you. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. I want to speak to the person that's hiring. And my questions are, tell me what this person's going to do in a course of a day. Because chances are in the job description, you'll get the requirements, what they have to have. I want to know about the project. I want to know what they're going to do tomorrow when they walk in. Who are they working with? What projects are they working on? Right? I need to get this information. I need to become part of that culture, part of that team. And to be very honest with you, we send no more than 3 resumes and we get a butt in the seat. And I say that with full confidence because we do the work and because we have clients that engage with us truly. So if you are going to engage with an agency and you are going to spend that money that I think is very well spent, because if you do find someone in a very short period of time and you only have to go through 3 resumes, that's a big deal.
Oh,
And
definitely.
if you put that into the hours that are spent on sourcing, interviewing, and not finding what you want, it makes a huge difference. But if you are going to go that avenue, then take advantage of it. And I can't stress it enough. The more you work with an agency, the better results you will get. What you put in is what you will get out.
It sounds like there's an incredible return on investment by working hand in hand with an agency, because the better understanding you both have, because sometimes hiring managers have an idea of what position they need to fill in, but they may not truly understand the profile of a candidate. Right?
Andrea, it's really funny because so we start on a job, and this happens quite often. And then after 1 or 2 interviews, they come back to us and they say, no, you know what? We need more of this, or they have to have more, more maintenance, or they need to have worked on, these, and they realize themselves sometimes, and it does happen, that yes, we started with this wish list, but as we're talking to people, we're seeing that we need more of, these certain skills. So many times that changes, and we become a sounding board, right? But we also take a step further. Like, we will never send you just a resume. Like, we send a whole skills matrix. So we'll take the job and understanding it, and we will put together a skills matrix. So all these requirements that are needed. And we have candidates summarizing what they've done in these areas. So when a hiring manager takes a look at the profile that we've sent, it's a whole package. It's not just here's a resume, because think about it. Like, if I was to write a resume, I could never, like 3 pages. I don't know. Could you fill 3 pages? I need probably a book of what I've done. But that doesn't mean anything. Really, think about it. Like, all of us, right? Most of us who've been in an industry for a while. So, you write the highlights. And so somebody might write, signaling. They might write maintenance and support. They might write infrastructure. So they'll use certain, and we don't know. What have you done? Were you part of that group? Did you, were you hands-on? There's all these questions that arise. So what happens is, if somebody doesn't know how to ask the right questions and read between the lines, and this is where it's really important that a recruiter comes from technology or engineering and can understand what they're reading. And they're not just looking at these buzzwords that, you do a Google search, the buzzwords come up and you think, oh, wow, I got the person. Not really. So when we're looking at the core skills, we ask them to summarize what they've done in these areas that are very important to us. If you're a coordinator, have you worked with teams? Have you used certain software? Have you done, you go into a lot of the detail. So when we're going through this, when we send out a profile, it's a full package. It talks about 5 or 6 skills that are a must and what they've done in detail. It brings along the resume. And then you also have why we chose that person. So you're getting to understand, you know, where we're coming from and what we saw in this person. And that's where a lot of the behavioral stuff comes in. Why we think this person would be a good fit into your organization. We have organizations that are really fast paced.
Yes.
And you know what? And there's not everyone who can do it. And there's organizations that are more creative, more laid back, they have a different feel. And if you don't get that person that can manage that culture, they're not going to last.
Correct. And after all that investment, you really do want them to last.
Absolutely. And we do too. And, you know, and we have a pretty, our guarantee is, you know, we usually do a 6-month guarantee with most of our clients. And that says a lot, right? That says a lot. And for us, it's not about just placing people. I've been doing this too long to be looking at a quick fix. It's not what I do. I've built, you know, a huge network. I love what I do. I care about people. And so does my team. I have an amazing, amazing team of people that feel the same way. That, you know, we live and breathe what, you know, our values are. And we want people's careers to grow. We want companies to excel. We want to see this move forward. So it's not about a quick fix. It's about getting the right person in there.
Thank you, Olga. We have a question from the audience. Do you want to address them now?
Absolutely, sure. I'm open. Like I said, I didn't put a PowerPoint together because I thought this would be a better way, like just, you know, open conversation. And if we can add value and you know, people can take something away, then we've done our job.
Sounds good. Terry Johnson, you can unmute yourself and ask away.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Andrea. And thank you, Olga. It's been really interesting, actually, because I come from a background where I was a IT entrepreneur. And in 2015, we were recruiting for artificial intelligence. Now, everybody's doing that now. They weren't that. It was actually quite hard to find the right people. So I think there are some parallels. So what I'd ask you is, to what extent do you see the industry looking for ways to partner with universities to create research projects, but also to get access to the people who are doing the bleeding edge research in the fields that they need? Because that's the way we approach this. We actually work with the University of Waterloo, but we ended up, because we got our heads into who's writing the papers on this in the niche that we need, and then hired somebody from University of Alberta to implement some technology that Harvard had created. And I think that might be a little bit more advanced than the rail industry can do, because the rail industry needs to be a bit more pragmatic and conservative in what it actually installs, because the wrong side risks are a lot higher. Yeah, do you see that kind of university partnership going on within Canada, or even with global universities? So I know, for example, we have a couple of people who work in the industry in Canada are actually lecturing at the University of Birmingham. So that's my question. And then the pictures, shameless plug, I just sent you my resume because it sounds as though there might be some way you can help me.
We're always here to help. That's what we do. You know what? So universities, governments, it's a long process, to be quite honest. Change doesn't just happen, right? There's a lot of, do we want to call it lobbying? I don't know. I don't know what that word is, but it's well worth this industry to push that way. And they will have to. If they want things to happen, these things will have to happen, because and the government, like I said yesterday, it was really interesting because we went, you know, we were talking about the economy, and it turned into, and I didn't start it, but it turned into the shortage of employment. So they see these issues, and they're going to have to talk about the research that needs to happen. They're going to have to talk about the industries that are up and coming and how are we going to address them. So I can see that happening. Is it going to happen tomorrow? No. I think this is a long process that will take its time to get there, but will it? I think it will. I think it will, and I think it will faster in Canada than in other countries. I'm not talking about the US, but other countries. I think it will take longer. I think in Canada, though, I don't know, will it take a couple of years to start to see that? But definitely, I think it will happen. It will happen, and we've been pretty good if you think about, if you think about technology and where it's gone, right? And how important and how it's been implemented, and especially in Waterloo and other hubs as such. So I'm thinking that engineering will start to make that change, right? And add to their curriculum.
Thank you, Terry, for your question. Thanks, Olga.
Thank you, Olga.
So now we have Raquel for a question.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Raquel. I'm a project manager for the TRACCS team on Express. And I'm just like, my question, it's more based in two different areas. First thing, I saw you talking a lot about like very specific like cases and high level education. What about the base? We here on Express, like we are visualizing in a near future that we will need the need of base workers will increasingly hawk sky, like it's going to be crazy in the near future, and we are trying to come with solutions for that as well, working with some contractor partners, trying to develop this market. One of the and this coming from two actions actually. One of the things I believe that we will need to work closely with unions, try to attract more people to work with us, because if you compare union rates from the track market and with civil and other areas, it's not as attractive as it is for other construction areas. Another thing, it's training. And I saw Andrea talking about other training facilities being planned for other companies. So I would love to hear more about that as well, because this is something that we on Express are thinking about this as well. So if we can exchange some knowledge on these would be great.
So interesting enough, and I'm glad you brought it up, because when we started with Crosslinx, they were looking for very base people. These were, so as I said earlier, they used data manipulation specialists, okay? And so when you think about it, you think, holy smokes, wow, what is that? It sounds like, pretty high up their role. So when we started digging and started doing, our work and asking the questions and really coming down to what it is that they want, you know what we found? We found that we were looking for strong people, like people who had very strong skills in Excel.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we were looking for. Very simple. And all we wanted was these people, we were going to train them in the QFM, right? In the CRM system that they were using. And they had to really have good knowledge of Excel so that they can enter in barcodes, entering a lot of the coordinators' work. And it was that simple. So when we started to look for these type of people.
Mm-hmm.
And we were very successful. And that's how it started. Like it started with really base, simple people. They were just, they were these titles that were kind of, all over the place. And we were able to ramp up. I think, I don't know, we hired maybe 9, 10 people that they just needed right away to get this going, because they had so much documentation to get into the system and so on. So again, what I'm going to turn around and say is with, the baseline people that you're looking for, again, it's going to come from transferable skills, and it's going to come from digging and understanding is what do they really need to know that I can train them. Like if they've got this base, then I can teach them QFM, for example. I can teach them certain skills. This is how it's going to have to happen. And then now these people, imagine now 3 years ago this happened. These people today are coordinators, are, you know, frontline people. They're people that now have moved into the industry and have moved up. So this is one way of transitioning and getting the right people in, right? Understanding the core and the base that you need, and then working up. We're going to have to, because we're not going to be able, there's no way that we're going to find QFM people, right? Where are you going to find them? You're not going to find them. Or you're not going to find the data manipulation specialist, because automatically you're thinking, oh, data, and you're thinking about data analysts and DBAs and whatever. And it's got nothing to do with that, really. So that's one thing. The other thing that you talked about, I think you talked about attracting people and the unions.
Yes, exactly.
Right? So here is what we did and what I found that worked. The way we were able to transition people was showing them the light at the end of the tunnel, explaining to them that this is an up and coming industry. If you want to be working for the next 15 years and have work, not just working, but have work and meaningful work, you can grow into this industry. There's companies that are prepared to take you along with them. And here are the projects that are out there, right? And it's across Canada. So educating people is very important. And then really, really listening to them. Because I have found that salary is one thing, but today more than ever, and especially after the pandemic, people have kind of, I think it gave them an opportunity to stop and think about what's really important. And realizing that, yes, you know, salaries are important. And actually, you know what? One of the things yesterday we were talking about is that there's been an increase in salaries, just so that everyone knows here, 4.7 from last year. 4.7% was the increase in salaries, which has never happened in Canada. So it's substantial, but it's not the only thing that people are looking for. So when you're trying to get people out of certain markets, I think this is really going to be important. It's going to stand out, especially for the younger crowd.
Got it.
Right? Because you will definitely, like we come across this too, where we have issues where there's a company that's paying less than what other companies are paying or what they've been paid for a while. You know, and how do we deal with it? And sometimes we can, and sometimes we can't, right? Because people are set in a certain lifestyle and they want to be making a certain amount of money and they see it. So, you know, it doesn't always work, but I think overall, and especially for the younger crowd, I think that this is something that we found that's worked very well. So I don't know if I've answered your questions. I hope I have, but
yeah, I think it is a very deep question, and it's several layers, but we will be working on it. And Andrea, please, if you can share with me future and information about other training initiatives, we will be working on it, and we'll be glad to talk more about that.
I will tease you with this. We will have a block of sessions at the conference of Rail Day, TRACCS Rail Day in June, only 4.5 weeks away, where we will talk about the human element of transit rail. So we will be discussing this a little further with other insights from other perspectives, the universities, nonprofits, engagement, as you were calling, Olga, the lobbying, right? Lobbying for the industry, marketing ourselves better. So there's a little bit more of that, and we can definitely put together another webinar session to continue this discussion because it is important. So thank you so much for your question, Raquel. This has been great. And now we have Arash's question. Arash, go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. No, it's been a great discussion. This is very close to my heart, and just wanted to a little bit add to the last two questions. TRACCS was created to address some of these issues as well. We have worked with unions to try to, start training programs, and I think it's something that we need to continue because a lot of our projects require union labor, so we cannot really hire outside. But if you go to the union hall, there aren't anybody ready-made. So, and the union has the training budget and capability to put these courses. So TRACCS would like to work with them to develop some of these programs that, can address those site-based opportunities, which are very difficult to find, sometimes even more than the higher positions. On the Terry's questions regarding university, we are working closely with McMaster University and have developed a master's program in rail engineering, which they'll be attending the TRACCS Rail Day as well, to promote that program to the young attendees, and try to attract people to attend that program. About training within, I have been in the rail contracting for the past 12 years, and we have come to that conclusion that we need to do internal training. Even there is a risk that people will leave, and other contractors or other agencies will come and hire our trained people, but there's no other way. We need to train, and make the environment an environment where they'll stay. And we're helping the industry as well and ourselves by training, and encourage all companies to look into that, because there's a lack of resources. And on Olga's point, I'm a big promoter of transferable skills. Myself, I moved from infrastructure and civil engineering, working on large projects in Dubai. And when I came here, I moved to rail, and I've stayed in rail for the past 12 years and picked up the skills, the technical points very quickly, but the project management skills are transferable. And I hired mechanical, civil, electrical, and we transferred them into rail engineer, and they're all successful and being hired by all the organizations I'm moving around. So these are, all, great points. And TRACCS is another forum that, we would love to have more webinars and, have these discussions. If you have ideas, you want to explore them, this is a good forum. You can reach out to Andrea, and TRACCS Rail Day will also be a good opportunity to meet like-minded people and people who are trying to resolve these issues.
Thanks, Arash. Yes, definitely. I mean, to Olga's point, right? All these different strategies that are available to us to really get the right staff, get the right talent to fill those positions, they're really good and all. But until people go through all those motions, until government does the research, this is very long term. I think that Olga's solution of looking for these transferable skills and just like bringing people out from another country or from another industry, I think that's going to help us more than anything in the shorter term. Perfect. Because there's all this investment that's available to the industry, all these projects that need to happen. And so we find ourselves with all these gaps.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's going to be a multifaceted approach. Short term, look for transferable, long term training, university programs, trade schools. It has to
a little
be
bit of everything.
Yes.
There's not one solution. It's not one solution. I think, and everyone has to come together and work together to make this happen, right? Yeah. It's not one solution that fits all. There's so many different solutions. And if we take a little bit of everything, I think we can grow the industry with everyone's help, and really make it a robust industry. I really do believe so.
I agree.
That is correct. I mean, we've seen, and what you mentioned, Olga, also what is seen everywhere else in the world after the pandemic, people want meaningful work.
Yes.
And we are in a moment in our global history where sustainability really turns heads. So our industry has a good card up their sleeve with that one, right? Because we are offering that.
They do. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just, you know what? I think it's just a matter of getting it out there. Do you know what I mean? I think there's a lot of people that don't even know that this industry exists. Like we've seen it firsthand. Like I said, we're frontline, so we see it. We talk to people every day. And you know, when they start to understand where this industry is going and the potential that there is and what they can learn, it's exciting.
Very much so.
Yeah, and I think it's a good opportunity for all of you, you know, through your contacts, you know, encourage people to attend TRACCS Rail Day. It's a good opportunity to, you know, kind of get to know the industry better, especially the young individuals who are not very familiar with the industry.
Absolutely.
That's right. Before we run out of time, I would like to hear Mert's question. Mert, do you want to unmute yourself and pose your question?
Thank you very much for your time. And I used to work for Crosslinx, and it was my first job. And thank you to your company because I was working for QFM administrator, and Miss Uzma helped me to find my job. And I had almost every experience Miss Olga say that like I really liked the job, but it was required me to go to more site because I'm more like data expert person. And then I started to work for Crosslinx again, but as a data coordinator. And I wanted to more automated stuff. I wanted to more initiative, but they just wanted me to do more like certain task. I wanted to have more responsibility. And when I'm doing that, how can I say, when I can't exceed some expectation, like if other people are doing 5 jobs and if I'm doing 8 jobs, when I'm doing 7 or 6, I became like bad employee and I recently quit from my job. And I'm really data driven person. I like to automate stuff and learning about this kind of task. But the problem is people like me is we can't get easier job because in this kind of sector it's more sites oriented. People are more appreciated. People are going to the site and doing the task, but not like data or documentation people. I observed that around 2 years in my experience from Crosslink. And when I'm looking for jobs like Metrolinx, infrastructure on Ontario, they're looking more solid experience. My question is, it's really hard to find that experience, certainly giving you SQL, Python. I'm trying to have some courses from LinkedIn, but even other jobs too. People are asking you to have some certain experience. When you're trying to ask from them, they're not giving you the opportunity. Internships are only for co-ops, or you need to finish at school, and I don't want to spend $30,000 to a university. Again, I graduated 4 years in my country, and I go to a 1 year school in Canada. I don't want to go another something for another co-op chance. I would like to ask your opinion this kind of cases, or do you? I mean, I was also looking your portal too, but I couldn't find like not most of the jobs on your side is looking for some expertise. Like, what will be your advice to someone like me? That's my question, basically. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Mert. Thank you very much. And thank you for working with us and getting some exposure to Crosslinx. And I know that we got very good feedback from your work. I think what's important here is what you want to do or what you're doing. It doesn't necessarily always cover, like in the industry, in the rail industry, right? Yes, there is a part of technology, like when you're talking about data and you're talking about programming, you're talking about Python, you're talking a little bit more about IT than you are talking about engineering. And I think this is where the gap lies, right? So the job that you were doing, because you were very good in data, and at the time, that's exactly, and I think I talked about it a little bit before, right? Is that when we did a bulk of hiring at the beginning, we were looking for data experts because that was the job. But most of the jobs in rail are not so IT or data necessarily focused, right? Unless you're more into the construction of the IT departments. So it's really understanding where those boundaries are. So for you, I don't know, I don't think it's more industry because you come from the data world. So it's not necessarily industry in rail, right? But it's more about.
My background is with PwC. It's more like financial company, but I learned some Excel skills and some automation skills well. And my observation is just kind of observation when I'm involved in Crosslinx. It's a company like around 10 years ago. And some systems there, some documentation system they're doing is pretty old. It can be automated instead of having like 15 people doing pretty repeating job. It could be automated faster, and stress of people can be reduced to. Sometimes we were like overworking because some station people doing mistakes. I mean, we were keep revising documentations, but they were also picking some slower methods instead of automated. I mean, at the end of every process, there's also needs a documentation to take in occupation from CD, and most of the process is being by electronically. I still believe in that there could be some spaces and like companies like Metrolinx or other one so looking people, but I don't know. It just I also really liked working for this industry too. It was like people and work was fine too, but I don't know. This is just my frustration. Maybe I don't know. I'm just a bit looking for
It's not easy, and for sure the job market is an interesting one. And to be honest with you, I think that when I look at the rail industry, there's a lot of projects that are now taking off, or they're in places where at some point, for example, in data, there will be such needs, right? When there's different phases, different projects, different things going on, but it's not only there. I think that you can find work in various industries because of your background. So I would encourage you, if you haven't done so, to connect with one of our team members. I know that you've been working closely with Uzma. Get a hold of her and see. And a lot of times we post jobs, as you well know, that we'll post jobs. But really, it's not necessarily that's the only way that we're always looking. Sometimes we'll take on people and we'll help and we'll market them. So I would suggest maybe talking with Uzma, going a little bit deeper, and let's see what we can do. And of course, if we can, we'll help.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you, Olga, for all your feedback and the way you've presented all this information. And you're right, it's definitely a conversation that we need to have about this. And there's a lot to do. And we're very excited to have you on board, to have you be also sponsoring TRACCS Rail Day and supporting us. You can find Olga right next to the technology showcase. She's going to be in the most premium space that I can see, across from the coffee, across from all the techies. You're gonna be able to find her easily. I put in the chat a couple of links if you wanted to learn more about live assets, transit staffing solutions, and some engineering jobs that they have posted about. So I think that this is going to be of value to everyone here on this call. Thank you so much.
And I thank you very much. I really appreciate the time. Thank you for hosting me today. And I really do look forward to TRACCS. If I can be of any help, in any way in TRACCS or, you know, or
I think I'm gonna have to ask you to help me staff the event.
you know what, whatever I can do, I can do. I mean, not everything is always about money, you know. It's always about giving back to an industry that's given us a lot. So I'm always here. Anything I can do, any way I can help, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much, Olga. Thanks everyone
Thank
for
you.
being here. And as I mentioned earlier, we are going to have another webinar in 2 weeks' time. Go on to our website to find out more information. Thanks, Olga. You have
I
been
appreciate your time. Keep well,
Thank you,
everyone.
Olga.
See
Thank
you
you,
guys in
Andrea.
TRACCS.
Yeah.
Bye.
Have a
Bye.
good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Yeah. Thank you.